and welcome. It's another Confessions podcast from your friends at Radio 2, where the listeners are pretty shockingly sinful, as you might have noticed. This week's concise collection includes a potty pillar prank, a truceless troopoot on the loose, that wasn't my idea, just like to mention that, some psycho strife from a wicked wife, and a feline-flavoured fishy feast. Anyway, it all depends on who you're going to forgive. Here it all comes. Trevor is tonight's confessee. Simon and team, after listening to your confession of the Newcastle student playing Yes music very loudly, I write to confess to something that I did some 31 years ago when I was a 20-year-old agricultural college student in the county of Nottingham, though I can't say exactly where. I think that's because he doesn't want to give too much away rather than he can't remember. I think he knows specifically. Okay. I was in my first year of study and was having a great time milking cows, playing rugby, drinking a lot, that kind of thing. Oh yes, and studying agricultural merchanting at the same. I didn't know merchanting was a word, but agricultural merchanting was what it was.
Not merchandising.
No? Well, no, that's what it says.
Merchanting.
The college ran several different courses and there seemed to be genuine competition between the different groups of students as to who could outdo the other. Fire alarms were set off, rooms emptied and repositioned in exactly the same way out of the on the campus lawn, food dye put in the kitchen water system, harmless little things like that.
We all did them.
In early February it was cold, snowy and my room had become infested with mice due to my girlfriend's wonderful homemade chocolate granny's biscuit crumbs.
What?
Yes.
Chocolate granny?
Chocolate, well, I was going to say, I think it's the
You're only jealous.
the biscuits that's chocolate, not the
I think
granny.
we understand.
The granny.
Anyway, a student called Jerome was sharing the house and living directly below me. He would continue play Don't Stop Believin' by Journey at top volume at all times of the day and night. Like this. Don't stop believing. It's an Aura Quest Friday favourite. Anyway, Trevor says, I now appreciate the classic song, but at the time I was into Duran, Depeche Mode and the Police. I liked my flouncy hair. Journey definitely did not fit in. No. I did, shall we say, ask him to turn it down or off, but the slob ignored my polite requests. Finally, I stormed into his room one evening and took off the record from his record player and threw it into the corner. Sorted. This student I had was on a different course to mine, something called Advanced Certificate in Agricultural Marketing. They were known as ACCMs, because that's the acronym says ACCM. Thank you. This is relevant. It was exam time, Simon, and so life was getting pretty depressing. In a moment of weakness, after speaking to my father, I agreed to a job interview in London. That was not at all related to agriculture and would result in me working in an office 9 to 5, 5 days a week. I went for the interview, and I got it. I drove back to college on the 14th of Feb, Shrove Tuesday, and after telling my fellow students what I was doing, we all went straight to the pub, where we stayed for a while. Then, of course, I was invited to student pancake party, where I also stayed for a while, and there were more beverages there. It was then that a couple of fellow pranksters, they were prankster mates, actually, who I thought I could trust, they suggested that I shouldn't leave college without one final extravagant prank. So off I drove in my old VW Beetle with a tin of permanent pink paint and two conniving so-called friends in the back. Well, this college had lovely old stone columns at the front of the main building, and the college principal's office had a wonderful view of the boathouse by the lake. Before I knew it, I was handed a paintbrush and an open pot of pink paint. With a stupid smile on my face, I duly decided to improve the plain and rather dull stone columns and repaint the principal's office window. It then came to me that there was a golden opportunity to apportion blame for this handiwork in a certain direction. The moonlit boathouse with its large panelled side was the ideal location. I strolled over and daubed in large, permanent pink capital letters, ACCMs rule OK. Journey rock.
Oh!
Don't stop believing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Just remind me.
Anyway.
Yes. Anyway.
The following morning, I was suddenly woken up by, having got back to my house, by a banging on my room's door. The person refused to give up banging, so I, with a massive headache and feeling rather hungover, I dragged myself out of bed and opened the door. It was the chemistry lecturer, a thoroughly good bloke and brilliant teacher. How odd, I thought. There's been some vandalism at the college overnight, he said. I said. And the police have been called and all the ACCM students are being interviewed. I don't suppose you know anything about it. He looked at me oddly. And do you like Journey?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
No, I said. No, on all counts, no. And then I noticed my rather pink hands.
Oh, no.
No, I said, rather unconvincingly. He turned and muttered something about needing to get some white spirit quickly. Within a short period of time, my room was transferred into a decontamination chamber with cloths and white spirit and black coffee everywhere. Clothing was bagged up and taken away, and my hands were scrubbed with white spirit to remove the paint. But this was permanent paint, and white spirit did not shift it. What to do, as I had a final goodbye meeting with the college principal at midday? The answer was plasters. Several boxes were produced, and then bandages, and wrapped around my hands to hide the paint. Finally, the evidence was hidden, although my hands did resemble a boxer's before he puts on the gloves. I dressed and nervously went to my appointment with the head of the college to say cheerio. We started to shake hands. And then he asked me, as you would, what happened to your hands? From somewhere I produced this sentence. My brother has a piranha.
What?
I then shut my mouth and offered no further explanation. Oh, he said, and wished me good luck and a successful future.
Oh, right, fine.
Yeah. So I asked for forgiveness, not for what I did as it was naughty. No, I asked to be forgiven by all the students on the Ackham course and for putting them through hell. And to Jerome for the thorough grilling he received. And to Journey, of course, for taking their name in vain. Anyway, it's Trevor. It's Trevor's story. Good line, I think. Anyway, very interesting. Mucking around, pranksters. Not quite sure about that. I think Brother Matthew might look quite hard on that. Anyway, it's Sister Rebecca.
I think the people investigating this incident were clearly not the brightest, were
No.
they? I mean, first of all, they didn't realise that the person who perpetrated the crime would be very unlikely to leave their names, their favourite band, and whatever their acronym is for the thing they're studying. And also, I mean, the chemistry teacher who came and saw they had pink paint, it didn't occur to him that this might be a clue, that he was the perpetrator. So I think, actually, they're the ones who need to be forgiven here, who committed the crime. And, Trevor, you're completely absolved, by me anyway.
Dean of Deadliness.
Well, I'm in a bad mood today. 'Cause I had to suffer Matt from most of the morning and the afternoon. So I'm not going to be quite as forgiving, I don't think, on this occasion. The pink paint is just ridiculous to have still got the pink paint on his hands. So he's a bit of an idiot in that sense. And then to sort of resemble some sort of mummy by bandaging his hands, that was a little bizarre as well. And then the excuse, the piranhas. This is not good. This is not a good performance.
You have a piranha in the cage, you put your...
Yeah. Both hands?
Yes.
Oh, no, I don't think so. So I'm not going to forgive on this occasion, I don't think.
Very
No.
harsh, but what do you think, brother?
As Rebecca's quite rightly pointed out, the investigative skills of these people involved in this university leave a lot to be desired. Basically, do you like Journey? If you answer yes, oh dear, looks like you're going to be in trouble. And he's quite literally almost red-handed. He's got pink all over his hands, and no one thinks at any point, maybe when we're hunting down this guy who's been painting pink all parts of the university, we should look for some bloke who's got pink all over him.
Forgive him,
It's an absolute disgrace. However, it does all stem from a prank and a zany time with Trevor and all of his pals on that particular course, so I'm going to say no.
No what?
Not forgiven.
No forgiveness.
Oh, that's
No
good.
forgiven.
That's good.
Yeah.
Dear Simon and the Colourful Collective, after years of listening to your confessions, I now feel it's the right time to ask for forgiveness for something that happened in Cumbria a long, long time ago. Let's call me Des for the purposes of the story. I went to school in Cumbria, and after I left, a group of 4 of us old school friends would meet up back in Cumbria to reminisce and drink and do silly things, as you do. In the mid-1980s, would this be when you were in...
No, I was where are we? Yeah, mid-90s, yes.
Oh, no,
yes.
no, this is mid-80s.
Mid-80s, no.
Pay
no.
attention, Williams. We had one such reunion and went to a remote pub near the village of Threlkeld.
Oh, yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
For lunch and drinks. After the pub, we found ourselves walking down a long, lonely country road with dry stone walls on either side. All was well. We realised that we were just under the fell where the ghost of Bonnie Prince Charlie's army had been seen in the 1740s, and as the last battle on English soil was fought at nearby Clifton Moor between the English and the Scots, we decided to do a reenactment there and then. Being 4 blokes, we decided that 2 of us should be Scottish soldiers and 2 of us should be English soldiers. Ken and I were the Scots, and Rodders and Tomo were the English. Rodders and Tomo trotted off down this long country road to take up defensive positions. Ken and I decided we needed to bring some kind of authenticity to our uniforms, so we took our trousers off and,
Right.
and used our shirt tails as kilts. We then advanced in our kilts towards the old enemy down this long, straight country road, holding sticks for weapons. After a couple of minutes of advancing, imagine the final credits of Dad's Army, but substitute two men without trousers and sticks for guns, we heard a noise. A car, a long way off. But we kept on advancing because we had an enemy to attack. Suddenly, in the far distance, the car appeared over a crest in the road and was coming towards us. We were two grown-up men stood in full view in the middle of the road without trousers, so we leapt over a dry stone wall to hide. As we lay there, we said, well, the driver couldn't possibly have seen us as we're a long way off. Anyway, if the driver had seen us, he or she probably wouldn't have noticed that we were trouserless, and anyway, surely wouldn't stop. We heard the car getting louder and nearer and louder and nearer. We crouched lower and lower behind the wall. To our shock, the car slowed and then stopped, just beside the wall behind which we were crouching. The car door then opened and boots crunched on gravel as footsteps advanced towards our hiding place. We were terrified, and at that point, Ken uttered the immortal words, "Let's pretend we're a couple."
Oh, yes. Yes, let's.
As Ken went to hug me, we heard a male voice overhead saying, "Are you two okay?" We looked up in horror. Time stood still as this man took in the scene behind the wall. The man then said, "What are you doing there, Des?" A hideous realisation. It was someone I knew. In fact, it was my older sister's boyfriend called Bill, who was a farmer. We then tried in vain to explain to Bill how we were actually reenacting the...
Of course!
Actually, what we're doing is we're reenacting the last battle fought on English soil, and we're the Scots, and that's why we're not wearing any trousers. Needless to say, it was an impossible situation to explain our way out of. So I need to ask for forgiveness from Bill, primarily. His relationship with my sister didn't last much longer after that, and I have never seen him since, but suspect he's still sitting in Cumbrian pubs, recounting this story and probably still in shock, and I thought I'd better explain. So they actually were, that's the thing, they actually were reenacting the last skirmish on English soil, 1745. That's what they were doing, and that's why they weren't wearing trousers, and that's what Des would like to say to Bill.
They had been to the pub, though, hadn't they?
They had been to the pub.
So that might have had something to do with the fact that they removed their trousers so readily for this reenactment.
Yes, well, I think
really
so.
necessary,
They were being creative.
Yeah.
How could you tell the difference between the English and the Scots? This is 1745. This kind of thing happened.
I like that tale.
Yeah.
It's a tale with a twist, and it was very nicely described as well. The moment with the footsteps on the crunchy gravel and all that. I think it was hilarious, and a brilliant story. And I don't think there's much to forgive, really. I'm sure that the sister and the boyfriend split up for other reasons apart from that, and they had a very good reason for being on the other side of the wall. So yeah, Des, you're completely forgiven.
So yesterday we had My Brother Has a Piranha as a line, and today's killer line is "Let's pretend we're a couple."
Let's pretend we're a couple. Superb.
What do you think about that?
I love that story. That has really tickled me. The beauty of it is that you had no idea where that was going, right up to the point. Are you all right there, Bill? What? I love that. I am definitely going to forgive. There's nothing to forgive, in my opinion.
I know.
So yes, and it does go right up there with My Brother's Got a Piranha.
So here's tonight's confession. Comes from Jenny. Thank you very much indeed, Jenny, for tonight's tale. Dear Father, Simon and the Holy Collective, my tale goes back to 1984. We were a young, newly married couple starting our lives together. There was no living together in those days. I think there was in 84, but anyway. We were now man and wife, starting out as a Mr. and Mrs. I, unfortunately, suffered from nightmares, and very often my husband would find me standing on the bed, shaking the quilt, normally to get rid of the spiders, mice, lions or unicorns, or whatever other creature I had been dreaming about. I also had an unnerving habit of staring at him a few inches away from his face.
Can be off-putting.
With my eyes open even though I was asleep. This didn't help his nerves, it must be said.
Funny that.
Why am I married? Yeah. I never knew. Now, being young, we were prone to playing pranks on each other. And we were quite good at it. Steve that's his name,
Yeah.
the other half,
Yeah.
he would often catch me out. Anyway, at the time, you should know, and maybe you remember, that all the scary films were out. It was a golden time. Nightmare on Elm Street, that kind of thing. And we would rent a video. Youngsters, ask your parents, and settle down on a Saturday night to watch, having first had a takeaway and a couple of bottles of Black Tower.
Oh, we are in the 80s.
We were broke newlyweds after all. On this particular occasion, however, we found that they were showing Psycho on the television. A bonus in our books, no rental fee. We both admitted to never having watched it when we were younger, as we were too afraid. But having watched Nightmare on Elm Street the weekend before, we decided that this was going to be tame in comparison. And feeling brave, we decided that we would watch it after all. Now, one of my husband's traits would be to leave me to put the lights out and lock up, and generally I don't mind this, last thing at night, as he would warm the bed up before I joined him, because I hated cold sheets. So this is the way these things go.
Sheets? People
Yeah.
sheets in those days.
Well, we watched the film, and I have to say, it did spook us out more than I thought it would. The shower scene particularly made us jump and holler like little children. We held on for dear life, Steve's nails leaving quite a series of indentations in my arm. You'll understand if I really didn't feel like being the last one downstairs doing the locking up this time. The creaks, the bangs from the central heating were already sounding a little bit ominous. So, quick as a flash, I locked up and shot into the bathroom upstairs first, beating my husband so he would be the last one up. Ha ha! But then a wicked thought struck. Instead of doing my ablutions, I turned out the light and hid in the shower.
No!
Crouched down as small as I could, I heard Steve rootling about in the bedroom,
Like you do.
changing into his pyjamas, and then enter the darkened bathroom. 1 step to the basin, 2 steps to the pull cord for the light.
Not the biggest of bathrooms.
As he reached for the pull cord, my arm shot out and I grabbed his hand.
Oh, brilliant! Excellent.
Father Simon, I didn't know anyone could scream that loud, or for that matter, pull a shower curtain off its hooks. Thank you. It's fantastic music, though, don't you think?
Well done.
I didn't know that I could pull a shower curtain off its hooks and then a curtain rail out of the wall that fast. Steve was white and shaking with a look of terror that beat Janet Leigh's in the movie by far. He gulped and eventually words did come out, but I couldn't repeat them on the radio. "You silly woman" was the gist of it. And in hindsight, this could have been far more serious, as I'm only 5'1" and he's over 6 foot. And I reckon it was just as well he pulled the shower curtain and not my arm. We surveyed the bathroom, and now littered with plaster and twisted shower rail and torn shower curtain. And I have to say there was some mopping up to do as well. So I asked forgiveness for what was a terrible trick, and I'm sorry, but we never actually have spoken about it until now. I have never actually said I'm sorry until now. We don't speak about that prank, although I do relay the story to friends when I'm a little tipsy. I hope you can find it in your hearts. I didn't really mean to frighten him quite as much as I did, and I have ever since locked up last thing at night for the last 29 years. We did need a new shower, though that isn't relevant at the time. Jenny's prank resulting in shower curtain torn, shower rail curtain, the whole thing pulled away from the wall.
Scene of
A
devastation.
scene of chaos, that's what we have, and it's Rebecca to sit in.
I have to say, I love a good prank, but I think I would have had a sense of humour failure in that particular situation. I mean, I just hate scary movies, and that whole thing just makes me shiver. I can barely listen to that music without getting scared. And also, he could have done some serious damage to her. I mean, he could have thought he was genuinely under threat, and Anyway, luckily
Well,
he
not
didn't.
really. It was clearly his wife behind the shower curtain.
Well, clearly not that clearly to him. Anyway, I think if I'd been in his situation, I would have been furious. So I'm afraid I can't forgive you, Jenny.
Okay, no forgiveness for Jenny. The Dean of Deadliness goes down.
Unforgivable. I mean, a scene of devastation.
Mike,
yes,
a little
but
bit of mic technique here. Could you move a little closer?
Unforgivable. Unforgivable.
That's better.
Oh, I was always told never get this close.
Voice of the balls.
Well, I normally shout. That's what I should be doing now. A step too far for me. Unforgivable.
Yeah.
Unforgivable. Goodbye.
Is that it? It's hardly worth waiting for.
What? How dare you?
Brother Matthew.
I'll admit, yes, I'll admit that. I enjoy the odd scary movie, but watching them late at night and then locking up afterwards gives me the shivers as well. And so, if I'd been going into that bathroom and somebody had grabbed my arm, yeah, it wouldn't have just been the shower rail that goes tumbling. But they needed a new shower, so everything's fair in love and war, And I'm sure Steve doesn't mention it because he's a little bit embarrassed. I think it's fine. Well done.
This one, which we've called Honky Cat, is from Lizzie.
Doesn't sound good, does it?
That's why it's called Honky Cat. Dear Father Simon and the consecrated crew, I have listened to your confessional in awe for many a long year with an uneasy feeling that one day I too must join the flock of willing confessees. A lamb to the slaughter, willing to beg for your forgiveness, faithful listeners, bearing witness to my sin. During the mid-90s, I moved from my humble home in the Welsh Valleys to an attractive and wealthy commuter belt near Cheam to take up a professional position in my chosen field. Luckily for me, I was asked to house and cat sit for 3 months for a university friend's parents. The parents were off sailing on their rather large yacht in the Med. I was doing them a favour, they said, looking after their large house with croquet lawn, swimming pool and gym. How tough is this going to be, eh? The cat I had to sit was called Alfie. It wasn't well and needed a rigorously controlled diet. Anyway, no problems. Also, according to the house owners, it would give me a chance, they said, to get a feel for the area before deciding where to buy a house of my own. I could actually only have afforded a garden shed with that price of houses there. However, they were oblivious to this fact, being blissfully unaware that there were people in the world less fortunate than themselves who actually had to do real work and earn real money. Anyway, off they went, leaving me in charge of their lovely home. And there was I, walking around from posh room to even posher room, not quite believing my luck. I thought I may wake up from the dream at any moment and find myself back in the greyness of my terrace house. However, I soon got into the swing of it, quickly made friends locally and started having croquet parties on the lawn, jugs of Pimm's and everything. What, do you know this neighbour, by the way? Do you know this person?
No, not there. I don't live near Cheam, so, yeah.
One of the best things about this house was the hallway, which had a polished wooden parquet floor and a wide sweeping staircase up to a minstrel's gallery. I don't think we've ever had a confession with a minstrel's
exactly
gallery.
Is a minstrel's gallery?
It's a gallery where the minstrels can strum and pluck their instruments as they wish.
Mezzanine, yeah. Have you changed the name of the cat?
Do you know they actually have changed the name of the cat?
Wait, because we don't want to get sued by a cat.
I think it's a little excessive, really, but just to be on the safe side.
Outstanding.
From the ceiling hung a fabulous crystal chandelier, beneath which was a dinner table large enough to seat 12 guests. Having developed a close relationship with a local farmer's son, I decided to host a dinner party. I invited the nice lad, his parents, and my father and stepmother, who lived in a slightly less posh town which wasn't far away. Not being much of a cook, my dinner repertoire was limited, but I knew I could make a mean fish pie. The day of the dinner party arrived, and I prepared by purchasing the fish from the local fishmonger, Gerard, who spoke with a plum in his mouth. "It's caught this morning, Mum." Veg from the grocer, "It's so fresh, madam, you could have harvested it yourself." And wine from the overpriced off-licence. We're an international wine merchant. I've run out of voices.
Okay.
I placed fresh flowers on the piano and opened the wine to breathe while I set about preparing the fish pie. Feel free to comment here, Nigel, if she's got it wrong. I placed the fish in the cream and white wine sauce and smothered the mashed potato over the top, fluffing it up professionally with a fork. How's she doing?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. Yeah.
Finally, I grated a layer of cheese over the top, and it was all ready to place in the oven just before the guests arrived. Feeling quite smug and self-satisfied, I swept off up the staircase along the minstrel's gallery to get changed. So I returned to the kitchen after my jacuzzi, fragrant with lavender and coconut oils, feeling happy and relaxed and ready to play the hostess in my lovely house. And it was then I noticed that the cat was ill again. I noticed that the mash on the fish pie was no longer fluffed up and the layer of grated cheese had pretty much disappeared. I caught the cat's sight from the corner of my eye. Alfie was licking his lips and his paws and the rest of him, to be honest. Now, I don't know if cats can look ill, but Alfie did, and apparently was. I went hot and then cold. I mean, what could I do? The guests were arriving any minute and there was no time to make another fish pie, even if Gerard, the fishmonger, was open till 7 o'clock. Oh dear. Right, don't panic. Okay, the guests are not to know that the top of the pie has been licked and slobbered over by a friendly feline with a mystery illness. So much to my eternal shame, I have to confess, I scraped off the mash and cat dribble.
Oh, lovely.
I refluffed it, grated some more cheese on the top and popped it into the oven, believing that the heat of the oven would neutralise any germs,
Of course.
which may still be on the pie. I have no science to back up this fact, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to say that everyone had a wonderful evening and left none the wiser about the cat tongue germs that they may have consumed. There were only mild after effects, or none at all if you made sure you only ate underneath the pie and didn't eat any of the mash from the top, like what I did, says Lizzie. So it really is time to ask for forgiveness, not from the guests who thought they had a wonderful meal and they left satisfied, a little tipsy, so they probably don't remember anything anyway. No forgiveness is sought from Alfie the cat, who was supposed to be on his special strict diet and who had a spectacularly delicate stomach. His litter tray bore witness to this for several days after,
Thanks for that. Yeah.
which I supposed at the time was my punishment. But I ask you to have mercy on my soul, which Lizzie has spelt S-O-L-E,
Hey!
which I think might count against her, actually, in the long run. Anyway, let's see. So it's fantastic job. I mean, how about that, to be in charge house and cat sitting, but she just didn't do a very good job of the cat sitting. What do you think, Rebecca?
Well, you know, she did scrape it off, and then I think it's true that the heat of the oven would have killed the germs, isn't
Really?
it? I'm sure it's true.
It was
It's
cooked
like if
before,
you-
wasn't it? It was
No.
only that... it wasn't
I hadn't
cooked
gone
at
in
all.
yet.
Oh, I hadn't gone in the sauce.
Oh, well, that's
Sorry,
fine.
It's
It's like if you pour boiling water over, you know,
What?
anything,
Sausages?
really.
Let's not, everyone-
This is the way I run my household.
let's not go back to
Your
Rebecca's
toes.
calling social services.
Any implement that has been slobbered on by a sick child or animal. Anyway, I'm sure it'd be fine.
Really?
Yeah. And what were the mild after effects? Anyway, we don't know that, do we? So even if the other guests did have some mild after
I
effects,
don't like the sound of it.
Yeah, I think it's all fine. I think she did the right thing. I mean, she probably should have thought the cat might get the fish pie if she leaves it out on the surface. So that was a bit, you know, not very.
The standards in your house.
Yeah, slovenly. I tell you,
Outrageous.
it is outrageous. But I forgive you, Lizzie.
You live in a slum.
Pretty much.
Posh slum.
Okay, here's Nigel the Nov.
Yeah, here we go. I thought it could have been much worse. I thought we could have been, at least Alfie would have been deceased, or that it would have been only fools and horses moment when you
Wouldn't have
mentioned
got
the
on.
crystal chandelier.
got on then.
Oh, okay. I think she's followed the 3 retch rule, hasn't she? As opposed to the 3-second rule. So, yeah, you know, if a food falls on the floor, you can pick it up within 3 seconds. It'll be all right. Just carry on. Not that I'm a cook, of course. Or the jus de cat, or a chat even. You know, that's the bit that they scraped off.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's this going, Nigel?
I haven't understood a word he said.
Well, basically, I
If a tree
think.
falls in the forest.
Stitch in time.
Wait
Yeah.
wait till you've had the velvet wine cake. It's a complete forgiveness, Lizzie, and don't give any of that to the cat because it will be very tiddly. So yes, I forgive. No one any worse aware.
Cat tongue germs, and it made everybody ill. I
Yeah.
mean, what's going on?
Well,
Jus de
yes.
chat.
Lizzie says that nobody noticed. Well, you're not likely to notice, are you? You're not going to notice that this mash tastes a bit of cat.
Dribble.
And also, why are you not eating any of the mash, Lizzie? Oh, because we've the cat's been all over it. Oh, lovely, excellent. And also, but as far as the cat getting a bit ill, it's the cat's fault, really, isn't it? Cat's nose got a dodgy diet. Although I would say it was the cat's fault, but I'll get loads of emails. So it's not the cat's fault. It's Lizzie's fault for tempting
Coward.
a cat. So I'm going to not forgive on the toss of a coin.
in the end, didn't you?
No
Well
idea.
done. 4 top confessions for you. Who did you forgive? You can let us know and send your own because goodness knows you've got enough. Confessions at bbc.co.uk. More gigantic japes for you next week. Don't forget to download the Weekly Mayo for more entertainment. Yes, it's true. Available now and every Thursday. Thank you.